we've talked about the vast array of options you have to work with, from very large to very small. How can you effectively test that huge range of options? Portrait, landscape, big, small, split screen, slide over, 1/3, 2/3, half. There are so many options now. And when I started, it was all like 320 by 240 simple iPhone. That was it. But now there's all manner of layouts and sizes and rotations and similar. How can you test that effectively?
Well, I guess you can probably do some automated tests that can test this, which I will admit immediately I am not an expert in, but we do at my current workplace do a lot of automated tests to make sure things are where they're supposed to be and the elements are all on the screen that you'd expect. But in terms of manual testing, I often use when building something for the iPad and iPhone, I often use the simulator to trigger the split screen, because that actually kind of gives you a big range of, like, you go to half, you go to a third, like you rotate. That really gives you a lot of like previews of what it will look like on the different widths of screens without actually having to run it on like a million different simulators.
Yes. So you can put it through that and literally see for yourself, does this look and work the way I expect it to work? Yeah. And you've also mentioned a few times size classes: horizontal, vertical, compact, or regular. And they were introduced. When were they introduced? It was a while ago, like iOS 6 or 7. No, it was before 7, wasn't it? I think about 6 or so. And they are nice. They're better than nothing. But surely, there's not enough. You've got a widescreen landscape iPad Pro 12.9 inch with your app running full screen. That is regular. But also, so are way smaller devices in a fraction of that space. Are they enough? Do you add extra things around them or something else?
Actually, that would be another one for my UI kit wish list. I wish there were more granular size classes. Right. I don't think it makes sense that there are only 2 size classes when the devices are so varied in their size. So oftentimes when I'm writing apps, I kind of make my own size classes where I base it on the size. Actually, not even the size of the screen, but I base it on the size where, like, designers I'm working with thought makes logical sense to kind of change something. So maybe for screens of this size, this button should be smaller. Screens of this size, it should be this size, and the largest, it should be like this, or the padding, or something like that, right?
And by size, you mean literally a point width or point height?
Yeah. I'll make like an enum with a kind of detects what the device or what the window sizes or device size, depends really on your app. And then configure based on that. And I know developers really hate magic numbers. Like, nobody likes to hard code numbers into their app. Ideally, the system would just handle it all perfectly, and it would have more granularity. But it's like, but you kind of sometimes have to do the compromise. If ultimately it makes sense on all small devices that are below this width to apply some sort of effect there, then just hard code that number. That's ultimately how websites handle responsiveness, also through CSS media queries, right? So you need to put these thresholds in if you want to handle it more granularly than the 2 size classes allow.
Right, and the size queries realistically aren't that complicated on the web. It's more or less small phone, tablet, desktop. And that's more or less it in terms of the actual numbers they use. There's not a great deal going on there. It happens to be, I think it's 1024 or 1023 they use for tablets, or 991, because there's a bit of padding here and there with a notch and similar. But they put in numbers that approximate a phone, a tablet, and a desktop. And that covers the vast majority of cases. I think, yeah, fine, Android has TV. They've got an extra big one for supersized devices. But you don't need a great deal more granularity sometimes. There's here, here, and here. 3 use cases, whatever they might be, is usually enough.
Yeah, exactly. So if you just need to put in a couple of numbers there that define these thresholds for you, and you abstract it away, so nobody working with what you created ever has to actually worry about what those numbers are. They're placed in one place. If it changes, you can replace it. Then I think it's okay.
Right. I don't think we'll see more size classes, sadly. We might see a replacement for size classes. If you think about how much code says, if size class is compact, then else do meh. That would just catch fire, right? That'd be so bad for everyone who sort of hit compile in the app. It would all just break and they wouldn't quite know why. But we might see a replacement for size classes, more advanced trait collections, for example. But then, of course, SwiftUI uses the same size class system. So that's how it just come out. They have to break that as well. Oh, I don't know. It's a hard problem to solve. If it was simple, I would have solved it years ago. But it's obviously not simple.